Tonight we step into Rome, not the postcard, the real thing. Heat wobbles above cobbles, olive smoke bites the tongue, and the Tiber carries yesterday's city straight past your feet. Vendors duel in 10 languages, a cartwheel kisses your hip. Someone upstairs empties a chamber pot and shouts, "Cave," a moment too late. Within a week, the marble dream turns practical. Water you shouldn't drink, tenements that wheeze, patrons you must please, laws that admire status, baths that share more than steam, and fires that argue with the night. Keep your head low, your cup covered, and your exits memorized. Let's see why 7 Roman days would be 6 too many. Tonight we start where every life starts and every tourist fantasy ends. At the fountain, at the pot, at the stall that smells better from 3 paces than it does up close. Rome loves to brag about its aqueducts, arched rivers in the sky, water marching like a legion. Yet the Rome you meet doesn't drink straight from those heroics. It drinks what trickles into street basins, lacus, what sits in neighbourhood cisterns, what's been baled and hauled and ladled by people with more errands than time. The marble mask spouts, the bronze lion gapes, and your clay jug fills while a butcher hoses his morning into the gutter not 5 steps away. You don't drink water straight, you're told. No one sensible does. You cut it with wine. That's not decadence, that's survival logic. Wine is a solvent and a scold, and it bullies the water's taste into obedience and maybe bullies a few unseen passengers along the way. So you take your vina diluta, or the soldier's posca, sour wine and water that taste like discipline, and you feel clever until your gut, spoiled by the modern plumbing and unaccustomed to Rome's microscopic democracy, files a formal complaint on the day too. Aqueduct engineers are geniuses, yes, but genius meets Rome's other genius, density. Between the spout and your lips lives a city. Hands, ladles, jars rinsed quickly, basin scrub sometimes, gutters that argue with rain. The water looks clear. Your stomach sees a palimpsest. Let's get breakfast. Street stalls bloom with food in every alley. Bread in baskets tucked under damp cloth. Bowls of olives. Soft cheese sweating in the heat. A lad with a pan of hot chickpeas shouting the day awake. The bread is plentiful. Rome's grain machine, the annona, makes sure bellies can be quieted with wheat even when politics are noisy. But it isn't tender. Millstones leave a little grit in the flour. By Friday your teeth feel as if they've been politely filing themselves down for a future archaeologist. You dunk the bread in oil and pretend you don't see the flies swimming a short relay. A vendor grins, scoops them out with a practiced swirl, and salts the surface with charm. Next stall, a thermopolium with its dolia sunk into the counter like fat-bellied moons. Lentil stew burps steam. Add a ladle of garum for luck, Rome's beloved fermented fish sauce that smells like the sea arguing with a pantry. Good garum is a whisper, bad garum is a sermon. You unlucky learner just baptized your lunch in the latter. Market day is a theatre of confidence trickery. The fishmonger promises this mullet's or sunrise. His neighbour has already played the trick of rubbing old eyes with fresh slime and rearranging gills to de-age a corpse. Sausages are anyone's guess. Pork if we're optimistic, leftovers if we aren't, mystery if we are correct. Wine cellars stretch a good amphora with a shy splash of river. Oil cellars cut olive with something that grew in a different story. You could hire a slave to taste for you, but you arrived without one and without the patience of someone who can afford to be poisoned slowly. By noon the sun turns the Subura into a skillet. You shelter under a balcony that drips laundry and occasionally other things. Upstairs a chamber pot tips. The traditional warning, cave, arrives with the same timing as thunder after lightning, educational, not helpful. You shuffle on and learn Rome's street choreography, keep to the stepping stones, hop the rivulets, trade shoulders without apologies, accept that sandals are honest but innocent. By now you realise every meal is an audition your intestines are failing. It isn't just the water. Rome is a petri dish with statues. You handle coins that visited 10 hands before yours. You share cups, towels, strigils, benches. You eat with fingers that were clean 3 stalls ago. There's no germ theory, only charm theory. People know illness travels. They just name the vehicle poorly. Miasma, a god insulted by a shortcut, a star in a bad mood. Remedies exist, of course: honey, vinegar, mint, rue, poppy. Some help. Many soothe the mouth more than the malady. And parasites. Consider them civic residents. Worms are as Roman as roads. Your first clue is the growl that interrupts a magistrate's speech with perfect comic timing. Your second is a fever that walks in like a friend of a friend and seizes your afternoon. You'll meet the apothecary tomorrow, little jars, big promises, bronze scales weighing hope against coin. You'll leave lighter in both. Just buy better, you say, as if choice were free. But you're not a senator with estate kitchens and a steward who beats honesty into suppliers. You're a nobody on a budget in a city that learned long ago how to tax ignorance. The good bread is behind relationships, the cleanest wine is upstairs in a patron's triclinium, the safest water is at the top of a private pipe that doesn't end in your hands. Your choices are public, and the public is crowded. Lead? You've heard rumours. Pipes can be lead, cups can be glazed, sweet syrups, diffrutum, boiled in lead pots can whisper a slow, elegant harm. Is this why your head aches after that better dinner? Maybe. Maybe it was the sun. Maybe it was the forum shouting 10 lawsuits at once. Rome offers overlapping causes. Your body files them all under regret. By midweek you try to eat like a soldier. Barley porridge, sturdy and humble. Onions that don't lie. A fig you washed like a suspicious rumour. Water scalded with sour wine. Your stomach negotiates peace. Then someone hands you a festival treat. Honeyed pastry, sesame crackling, and your restraint shatters under 1,000 tidy seeds. Delicious. Also, welcome back to the fountain. Food safety has no inspectors, only reputation and revenge. A vendor who makes too many people sick will be routed out of his spot, or quietly defended if his cousin runs the stair up to a patron's door. A famous cook can dodge a scandal with a new recipe and a well-placed anecdote in a rich man's ear. You, lacking both cousin and anecdote, nurse your stomach and learn the first great Roman lesson. Survival here is not just about what you know, it's about who knows you. Even when the ingredients are honest, the logistics are medieval hard in a classical city. Milk sours in the time it takes to cross 2 insulae. Fish must sprint from boat to brazier. Meat hangs in doorways thinking about afternoon and attracting a choir of flies that write their names in cursive over the rind. The butcher smiles and trims the story away. You smile and pretend you don't recognise the tune. Night falls, and you try comfort food. Hot, molesome, wine warmed with honey, a consolation masquerading as medicine. It slides down like an apology. You sleep, if that's the word, until the building sighs, the neighbour argues with a brazier, a cart rattles at an illegal hour, and your gut writes its dissent across your dreams. You wake at the fountain again, learning gratitude for coolness and for the small mercy that water, however democratic its households, still tastes like morning. If you get to it before the city does. By Thursday you've started to spot the safe hands. The old woman with olives who rinses her bowl too often to be lazy. the boy at the counter who uses a clean cloth more than once an hour, the baker who sweeps flies with a fan like a metronome. You queue at their stalls and pretend the line is patience rather than fear. You also learn the geometry of the street, stand-up wind of everything, under nothing, and shaded by anyone generous enough to cast a shadow and not notice you borrowed it. Somewhere between a cup of watered wine and a bowl of lentils that have decided to be pebbles, you say the modern heresy, I miss tap water. No one hears you, which is merciful. A citizen nearby toasts the gods for aqueducts, and he's right to do so. Without those sky rivers, Rome would be thirsty mud. But he also owns a courtyard cistern cleaned last month and slaves whose hands are the city's invisible filter. You own a jug, a stomach, and 2 eyes that are learning too slowly. And then there's the rent. Your landlord doesn't accept my intestines have declared martial law as a reason for delay. He knocks with the rhythm landlords discover at birth. Your coin purse is lighter for the medicines you bought and the better stall you found. You have options. Flatter a patron in the morning line for a dole and a favour. Gamble on a day's labour at the baths or the docks and pray the foreman likes your face, or sell a ring you swore you wouldn't. None of these options are broth for a tender stomach. By week's end you've learned to drink in thin sips, to eat what looks dull and lives, to carry a cup you trust, to bless the olives that didn't betray you, and to leave half a bowl when your courage is larger than your capacity. You've also learned this. Rome is magnificent because it is improbable, and improbable things are hard on bodies. The city feeds millions with roads and rivers and laws. It also forgets you while doing so. Your survival depends on joining a net of stallholders who nod when they see you, of neighbours who say Hic Melius, better here, of a patron who says your name in a doorway that smells like safer stew. You pat your stomach like a skittish mule and make a vow. Tomorrow, plain bread, an apple you wash like a sin, water you bully with wine, and nothing adventurous. Then a friend tugs your sleeve, there's a new cook on the corner doing dormice with poppy and pepper, and your vow collapses with the cheerful fragility of all Roman plans. Your belly will forgive you in time, the city won't. It expects you to adjust, and if you don't, the baths are right there, promising steam and remedy, and exactly the kind of health that introduces you to a fresh set of problems. You've survived your first Roman meals. Now you need a place for those meals to argue with you in private. Welcome to the Insula, the multi-story tenement that holds most of the city the way a basket holds kindling, densely, precariously, and very interested in sparks. The postcard Rome of atrium houses with cool pools and slaves who glide is a minority report. Your Rome is upstairs, past a stair that leans, past a door that only closes because wood and luck are on speaking terms. Street level is commerce. Baker, barber, shoemaker, maybe a wine shop that has never once confessed to water. Above, stacked rectangles of life timber joists praying to outlast the rent cycle, walls of rubble core faced in plaster, floors that have opinions when more than 3 people agree to stand in one place. Your room is a rectangle with a kind of window, more an argument with outside than an opening, plus a niche where a clay lamp hopes not to be a headline. The landlord's agent meets you on the stair, with a rent that sounds like a threat and a smile that practices mercy only on Saturnalia. Payment is in advance, always. Miss a week and your belongings achieve mobility. Out the door, down the stairs, into the street, where they become someone else's problem in minutes. There are contracts, yes, wax tablets, signatures practiced by men who do not read, but enforcement is gravity and muscle. Inside you inventory comforts, a straw mattress that remembers other spines, a chest that is more lock than wood, a small brazier for warmth, and food that doubles as a rumour of fire. Hooks for hanging whatever dignity you carried up here. If you can afford it, a woven mat softens the floor and stiffens your resolve. If you cannot, you learn the Roman trick of sleeping with one knee bent toward emergency. Neighbours arrive by sound first. To your left, a couple negotiating politics and pastry. Above, a cobbler whose hammer keeps honest time. Across the stair, a widow whose cat knows more doorways than you do and holds them all in contempt. Walls are tutors. You will come to know strangers' coughs more intimately than their names. The rhythm of their water jugs climbing the stair, the particular clink of a lamp set down by someone who wants to keep thinking. Water is everyone's chore and no one's friend. There is no tap. You carry it, up from a street basin slopping at your shins, each step a rehearsal for next week's thighs. Wealth hisses on the ground floor, poverty climbs. Fourth floor tenants develop a theology of weight. You sip strategically because each cup means stairs later. Laundry is a public sport. Basins at windows, lines strung across alleys like hymns to dampness, drips that baptize passers-by who are insufficiently alert to cries of cave. Fire is the landlord you really fear. Lamps, braziers, ovens below, each a generous cousin, until the wind asks an impertinent question. You sleep with a bucket near the door and a list of exits in your head, as if the building were a bad conversationalist you might need to leave without offence. The Vigils, Rome's night watch and fire brigade, patrol with hooks and buckets and the good intentions of men who are outnumbered by both flames and darkness. Their arrival comforts, unless they arrive with fines. Your stair is the city's intestine. Everything moves through it. News climbs, deliveries wheeze. Gossip descends with the speed of water on marble. On market mornings, the stair becomes commerce. Bread passed hand to hand because the baker's boy refuses to climb. Amphoria of oil slung by shoulders too young for such negotiations. A neighbour's child launched into your arms while his mother ties a sandal. You learn the Roman art of living in each other's elbows without apology. Night does not quiet, it curates. Daytime cart bands flip at sunset, and wheels thunder the streets beneath your pillow like a long argument between iron and stone. From the alley, singers practicing confidence, watchmen disputing shadows, a couple salting their private quarrel with public vocabulary. Mosquitoes form a small senate and reach consensus on your skin. Smoke thinks in circles. Sleep is a contract you renegotiate hourly. The building itself has moods. Dry days it behaves, plaster chalky, timbers crisp, damp weather, it sulks and groans. Joists swell, doors wedge, a hairline crack between ceiling and wall rehearses a future headline. You learn to read it as a farmer reads clouds, a groan at midnight, timber settling, a pop near the brazier, clay complaining, a quick series of ticks overhead, mouse or God or both. Ventilation is a puzzle with many wrong answers. In winter, you close the shutter and invent weather. In summer, you open it and invite Rome inside, dust, heat, voices, the occasional rat auditioning for senator. If your window faces a courtyard, you gain shade, and the chorus of a dozen households cooking the same stew differently. If it faces the street, you gain a theatre seat for the parade of lives you're not living, and sense you do not want to identify. Most insulae ban cooking upstairs and pretend to enforce it. Fires start in kitchens downstairs, bakers' ovens yawning at before-dawn heat, or in rooms like yours, where someone thought an extra ember seemed reasonable. If fortune smiles, a neighbour bangs your door with an elbow and shouts "Ignis!" in time for you to grab your chest, your shoes, your wits. If fortune yawns, the stair becomes a chimney and the roof learns to be a sky too quickly. You will see tomorrow the blackened scar where an entire stack of rooms used to be. Everyone will say they saw it coming yesterday. Rent has tiers like amphitheatres. Ground floor is most expensive, doors open onto commerce and a quick exit when walls stop negotiating. Second and third are tolerable. Fourth and fifth are for the brave, the resigned, and the recently arrived. Up there you gain a breeze and the right to say you live nearer the gods. You lose minutes of life per bucket of water and seconds of sleep per passing cart. You consider moving down until you price it. You remain pious by necessity. Domestic pests take pledges of allegiance. Bedbugs treat your mattress like a province to be administered. Fleas campaign vigorously and win. Mice are civil servants, indispensable, indelible, indifferent to your opinion. Cats negotiate treaties of convenience. Dogs, when permitted, snore like senators and defend like slaves. You join the quiet arms race, sprigs of rue under the mat, oil on bed legs, a lamp near the floor to scandalise roaches, traps baited with raisins and despair. Noise teaches you to trim your ego. You stop judging. You start predicting. You know when the sailor tenant is back by the salt in his laugh. You know when the midwife will be called by the rhythm of a young husband's feet. You know when the poet across the landing has sold a recitation by the volume of his practising. If you are lucky, music migrates up from a courtyard, the shy twang of a lyre, a voice of someone who sings like work is finished. If you are not, a flute insists it is a trumpet. For all its hazards, the insula is a university in neighbourliness. You learn the etiquette of shared walls, knock the rhythm of friend, borrow fire with gratitude, send down a bowl when stew is generous, send up a hand when courage isn't. The old woman 2 doors over becomes your barometer. The child who plays knucklebones in the hall becomes your clock. The man who mends sandals becomes your philosopher, speaking leather truths that last longer than speeches in the forum. Then one evening the floor tilts half a whisper. Everyone in the building goes still, the kind of stillness only practiced communities can achieve. You look at one another, counting, listening, groan, tick, hush. The tilt corrects, breath returns. Someone tells a joke too loudly. Laughter happens with a speed that betrays relief. You sleep badly, but you sleep. In the morning, a crack near the door is a little longer. You touch it like a doctor touches a pulse and decide to pretend you saw it last week. You will hear of collapses. Whole facades peeling off to reveal the private archive of lives. Beds, pots, arguments, all at once open to the sun. The city shrugs, then prosecutes the landlord, then forgets before the plaster dust settles. New timber, same prayer. Everyone repeats the proverb, taller rent, shorter life, and then goes back upstairs because the city keeps all its jobs at street level and all its sleep above them. By week's end, you have adapted in the Roman way. By becoming specific. You know which stair avoids the spitting lamp, which window borrows the neighbour's fig tree's shade, which roof tile will hold you when you climb up to feel almost cool. You tie your lamp higher. You store water in 2 jars for the night you don't want to descend. You memorise the shout that distinguishes fire from rumour. You are tired in the bones and nimble in the mind. You have joined the vertical republic. You step outside for air that smells like heat-loving stone. The insula groans behind you like an old man standing. You share the alley with a mule impatient at philosophy, a litter swaying with someone richer than sense, and a line of clients hurrying toward a patron's door. You think the street can't possibly be worse than the building. The street hears you think that and smiles. Morning is a brass noise poured down a stone funnel. You step out of the insula and the street immediately argues its case. Mule breath, olive smoke, hot dust, the sour bravado of last night's wine. Rome's traffic laws say heavy carts are banned by day, which means your daylight is a maze of feet, litters, and ambition. It also means the carts will come later when you want to sleep, with iron rim thunders that turn dreams into gravel. For now, you learn the choreography that keeps shins attached. The curb is higher than sense, stepping stones float like islands, gutters run their own republics. A litter shouldered by 4 men tilts toward you, because the senator inside confuses your body with air. A lictor lifts a bundle of rods as punctuation. Make way. You do behind you. A pickpocket translates the moment into economics and discovers your purse was naive. Vendors call in 6 accents. Figs as bright as oaths, wool with honest fleas, bread with a price that wobbles, amulets against the very city you're walking through. A barber sets up his mirror to catch light and your attention. He can shave you, extract a tooth, bleed your elbow, and tell you who lost in court yesterday. Politics is sold with the meat. A boy streaks past in a tunic that once had an owner you might have admired. A dog follows everything that smells like decision. Crossing an intersection is a philosophy exam. Wheels claim arcs, feet claim angles. A water cellar, 2 donkeys, and an old man with a genius for being in the way form a proof against geometry. You slip through, clever and grateful, until a cart's axle kisses your hip and explains the limits of both. You lean against a milestone and perform an inventory of bruises. The milestone, polite, pretends to be interested. You ask a passerby where justice lives. He laughs and points in 5 directions. There is a praetor in the forum with clerks, tablets, rules, and men who know how rules curve. If you're a citizen with a patron, law is a staircase you can climb. If you are a foreigner with no one's ring on your finger, law is a wall you admire from below. The courts do not exactly sell outcomes, they sell speed and interpretation. A patron's nod can relax a statute the way a warm day relaxes wax. A stranger's honesty can fail for lack of vocabulary. You experience Rome's famous clientela at a doorway already crowded with it. The morning salutatio. Clients line up with crisp togas and pliant sentences to greet a man who wakes to other people's problems and solves the ones that entertain him. You try the form, a compliment with careful verbs, your name, your small need. The steward blinks, the patron smiles as if at a stray dog who's learned a trick. You leave with a coin that buys lunch, and a favour that earns you the right to stand here again tomorrow. That's not nothing, but it isn't bread on Thursday. By midday, the sun polishes the city until it squeaks. You duck into a basilica, a law hall pretending to be shade, and watch men in white fold gestures into fees. A scribe writes so fast the stylus seems to be deciding things on its own. A witness swears by gods who have other appointments. A judge scratches under his wreath and chooses the eloquence he liked better. Somewhere in the back, an informer counts how many reputations can be harvested by dinner. You think the baths will fix this. Rome thinks the baths fix everything. Heat, dust, bad luck, mediocre poetry, loneliness. To the Thermae, then, temple of water and conversation. The vestibule swallows you. The changing room offers hooks, benches, boys who know who is worth knowing, and someone who plans to sell your cloak if you blink too slowly. You engage a locker slave with a coin and a look that says you will come back for both. Stripping in public is a Roman talent. Shame is for barbarians, body hair for philosophers, scars for soldiers. Oil boy approaches with a small amphora and an expression that can slide between reverence and gossip. He anoints you with olive oil that smells faintly of yesterday's senator and today's athlete. The strigil, a curved bronze smile, scrapes oil, sweat, dust, and the city's unending commentary from your skin. You are cleaner, glossier, and you have just shared the most intimate handshake with 36 strangers' days. The tepidarium, warm room, softens you. Steam turns everyone into mythology. Conversations commence on the ceiling and drip back as revised opinions. You slide into the caldarium as a man slides into an argument he intends to win, and the heat introduces your pause to religion. A masseur kneads you with hands that could rizzoli sandals or strangle a rumour. He finds knots you thought were character and turns them into humility. He asks who your patron is with the bland curiosity of a census. You answer with the name you practiced. He adjusts his respect accordingly. Health in Rome is status performed as hygiene. Doctors haunt the baths, Greek sometimes competent, Roman sometimes keen, both enthusiastic. One offers a diagnosis in Greek too fluent to be honest. He proposes a regimen: walks, wine, sleep, abstinence from whatever you enjoy, a salve compounded from rose, myrrh, and something that used to be a lizard. He quotes Hippocrates in a verse that might be Catullus, and charges you as if you understood both. Another doctor wears blood the way a butcher wears approval. He has bronze tools with the correct gleam and an apprentice who doesn't faint. He shows you a scalpel like a promise, and you remember a pressing appointment elsewhere. Women have their hours here, children their corners, philosophers their own heat which they offer free of charge. The baths are library, club, clinic, theatre, market, and rumour mill wrapped in marble you cannot afford. They are also a petri dish with pillars. Shared oil, shared benches, shared towels, shared pools where small cuts become large stories. You pick up a cough that will audition for tragedy at midnight. A friend warns you about a rash that thinks it's a senator. Back through the frigidarium, a cold plunge that takes your breath, teaches it grammar, and returns it edited. You emerge both fortified and compromised. Cleaner, yes. Also, oiled, scraped, slightly bled, and incubating a selection of the empire. You buy a sausage outside because the human brain is a comedy, and settle on a step where the sun is a prescription your mother would approve. Evening comes with carts because Rome loves irony. The day's ban lifts and the streets fill with wood, stone, amphorae and regrets. Wheels bite stone, axles shriek, drivers swear in dialects that could raise the dead if the dead respected teamsters. Sleep becomes a speculative investment. You consider the vigils, Rome's fire and night police, who patrol with buckets, hooks, lanterns, and enough authority to fine you for breathing wrong. If they find your brazier smoking near anything flammable, and everything is, they will confiscate your evening. Back to law because in Rome it returns like a chorus. A cutpurse finds your purse again. You catch his wrist. Onlookers look on. You shout, "Fur!" and the crowd provides both theatre and justice in one temperature. The thief wriggles free, lighter, faster, practiced. You report to a stationer of justice who writes your name carefully and your loss carelessly. Find a patron, he suggests, as if advice were restitution. A friend of a friend gets you in to watch a trial that is supposed to be about theft but is about a man's enemies. It is impressive. Witnesses coached by people who attend dinner with better food than you do. Gestures calibrated. Togas that have met chalk often. The verdict arrives with the inevitability of income. You think of your insula's stairs and understand both better. Rome is a vertical empire. Everything depends on what floor you can reach. So yes, the baths soothe and recruit for disease. The streets entertain and enroll you in gravity's club. Law exists and likes you when someone likes you first. Medicine tries and sometimes helps, sometimes rehearses your eulogy in advance. You can survive this, provided you grow eyes in the back of your skull, laces on your tongue, and a patron on your morning route. Before you climb the stairs, you stop at a shrine set into a wall. Two clay lairs looking like cousins who mind the hall. You drop a crumb, a fig seed, a wish. Not for immortality. Rome cured you of that. For quiet. For a night when wheels forget your street. For a morning when the fountain's water tastes only of stone and relief. For a doctor who prescribes soup, sun, and a smaller bill. For a patron who remembers your name without being reminded. For the lictor's rods to point elsewhere. You pass a corner where dice bite dust and men claim futures with a shrug. You pass a doorway where a midwife salutes your shadow like a neighbour. You pass a plaster notice announcing games you cannot afford to attend and cannot afford to miss if your patron notices you didn't clap. You pass a man selling amulets against envy. Or you buy one and envy the confidence with which he promises safety. At the insular door, a neighbour leans out with the rumour that the baker's oven 3 alleys over coughed flame and decided to become a headline. Everyone watched the roof learn to be a sky. Bucket chains shouting the vigil's late and contrite. A family in the street with their chest, their lamp, a pot and their cat, which approves of none of this. You nod the nod of people who know that sympathy is currency, and spend a little. Up the stair, lamps like tired eyes, a door open the width of a conversation. You set your water jar down with care so it won't wake the argument. You listen for the building's mood. Creak, timber opinion, patter, mouse bureaucracy, hiss, someone scolding a brazier, murmur, 2 people repairing a day with words that hope. You lie down on straw that forgives the city faster than you do. You will need tomorrow's legs for patrons and prefects, for lawyers who charge by the raised eyebrow, for doctors who prescribe naps in rooms that never nap, for traffic that practices Latin on your toes, for baths that polish you and then dare your immune system to keep up. Rome is a gym for resilience. It does not grade on a curve. It invents the curve as it goes. Sleep if the wheels allow it. The night watch passes, a lantern making a small coin of light for your ceiling to spend. In another room, someone coughs with ambition. Somewhere a flute chooses the wrong song and keeps at it until it becomes the right one. Down in the street, water argues with stone and loses politely. Tomorrow you will try another approach. Fewer corners, more shadows, fewer bold gestures, more practiced nods, a shorter purse and a longer memory. You will flatter a man who can introduce you to someone who owns a better corner of the law. You will leave the caldarium sooner. You will carry your own oil. And if nothing else works, you will learn the best Roman medicine. Breakfast uninterested in adventure, a patron who laughs at your joke, and the good fortune to miss the cart by a finger's width. Morning in Rome begins with choreography, yours if you want to eat. Before the sun is fully persuasive, you join a line outside a big door carved with bragging. This is the salutatio, the daily greeting, where clients present polished phrases and polished sandals to a man whose nod is worth more than your week. The steward counts faces like coins. You practice the bow that says gratitude without grovelling and deliver your opening. 3 compliments, 1 memory of his grandfather's virtue you borrowed from a neighbour, and a small request shaped like dignity. Inside, cushions, incense, a wax bust considering your future. The patron appears wearing the day-like armour. He likes being the centre of a solar system and pays for his orbit in small gravitational gifts, sportula coin, leftover food, introductions shaped like rope bridges over chasms you can't see. He is a busy god with a human attention span. Call him Dominus and he will forget you. Call him by name with the correct temperature and he may remember you tomorrow. Your place in this line is your health insurance, your legal fund, your job board and your lottery ticket. The city is a web and you are a fly hoping the spider is benevolent. Miss a morning and you become a rumour. Unreliable. Tell a joke that bites, and the steward learns your name for the wrong reasons. Flatter too eagerly and you become furniture. The competence is to be vivid enough to be recalled, mild enough to be riskless, useful enough to be kept. Patronage feeds you, yes, but it also eats. A nod today is an obligation tomorrow. Clap at his cousin's poetry, stand in his faction at the forum, attend games he sponsors and shout Jupiter at the right times. Lend your miserable dignity to his triumphal procession. If he is generous, you are fed. If he is in trouble, you are scenery. He may toss you a legal shield when a shopkeeper accuses you of paying with a counterfeit coin. He may also ask you to swear you saw what you did not. Rome's motto might as well be benefits, but bring your conscience on a leash. Threaded through all of this is slavery, so common the city forgets to notice it. Slaves open the patron's door, stand behind his chair, read letters aloud, file accounts, carry sedan poles, warm baths, grind grain, and learn their owners' frowns the way sailors learn winds. Some are beaten into silence. Some are educated into instruments. Some are trusted with keys and secrets that would bankrupt houses if dropped in the forum. A few are manumitted after years, becoming freedmen who keep loyalty like a tattoo and take pride in a freedom that still reports to someone else's name. You learn that slavery has uniforms and accents, field hands with backs like fallen columns, household girls trained to pour without spilling and listen without being, tutors quoting Greek with patience sharpened to a needle, bodyguards whose gaze is a short story about consequences. Rome calls it normal. You call it the thing that can hear you. You lower your voice around doorways and speak to servants as if their memories are part of the building, because they are. Now imagine you offend, it won't take much. Your laugh comes late at dinner, your sandal scuffs a senator's litter. You bump a citizen's ring hand without reverence. The social machine applies pressure. A shopkeeper forgets your name, a doorkeeper forgets your face, a steward forgets your place in line. The city tightens like a fist and you are the air inside. You hunt for a new patron, not easy when your old one is still breathing, and rehearse repentance fitted with compliments you hope do not squeak. Freedmen show you a path that is not noble, but is navigable. They wake before dawn, run shops with accounts tighter than a miser's fist, sponsor neighbourhood shrines, and build networks as tidy as their ledgers. Some become rich in the spaces senators consider undignified. Shipping, dye, funerary business, perfumery, the trade in anything Rome wants and pretends not to. They cannot hold high office, but they can hold your future. Befriend a clever freedman, and you will learn that Rome is administered as much from counters as from curals. Festivals are relief valves and risks. On Saturnalia, hierarchies invert, masters serve, slaves joke, hats of liberty sprout like mushrooms. You drink, you laugh, you forget who is allowed to mock whom. Tomorrow remembers. On other feast days, crowds swell into a single creature with many feet and stupid ideas. Purses vanish, insults multiply, a jostle grows teeth. Keep one hand on your coin and the other on your mouth. If your patron sponsors games, you are there at dawn, praising beasts you hope not to meet personally and clapping for a charioteer whose faction your patron favours. You clap with conviction, someone is watching conviction. Religion is social glue with incense. You join neighbourhood rites for the lairs, because the men who sweep the street also take attendance in their heads. You tie a ribbon at a crossroads shrine because the woman who sells you olives stands there and counts who forgets. You toss a crumb at Vesta's flame because a magistrate's nephew is nearby and he smiles at piety, even when he doesn't practice it. Gods see, people report, both matter. What of love? It too is an office. Marriages are alliances. Liaisons are politics. Romance is a poem that owes favours when recited. A wrong flirtation can close 3 doors for the price of 1 night. A right one can open a kitchen, a corner table at the Thermopolium, a safer seat at the games. You become a mathematician of glances. You learn to praise without promising, to listen without enlisting, to exit a conversation with the same grace you use to exit a collapsing stare. And everywhere, accents, marking you as sooner or later. Greek earns patience, Eastern earns curiosity and sometimes cruelty, African earns jokes you will outlive, provincial Latin earns the smile that means you'll learn. Each shopkeeper and doorkeeper runs a silent exchange rate on your vowels. You say salve with the city's cadence after a week, and the baker adds a half roll to your sack because you had the sense to practice. The city's unofficial civil service is women with eyes. Laundresses know who stains what and why. Midwives know which houses cry at night and which don't. Tavern keepers know which magistrate pays in promises and which slave is saving to buy his name. Treat them as background at your peril. A whispered good word can smooth a morning. A sour one can sandpaper a month. There are ladders, you can climb them. A day job at the baths leads to a recommendation to a warehouse. The warehouse foreman knows a merchant who needs a clerk. The clerkship puts you in a counting room where numbers translate into favours. But every rung belongs to someone. Your grip must be clean, your feet quiet, your gratitude audible and not annoying. The first time you forget to thank the steward, he forgets to hand your name up the chain. The second time, he forgets there was a chain. What saves you in the end is small, repeatable competence. Show up dry when others are wet. Bring a candle when the corridor is blind. Learn a senator's slave's name and greet him first. Share a rumour only after it has grown a beard. Laugh when the patron's joke lands like a wounded duck and make it sound like a swan. Carry 2 buckets and pretend they are light. And yet, 1 spark and all your scaffolding is tinder. Rome is a city that plays with matches, bakers' ovens, lamps in curtained rooms, braziers under slanted roofs, summer winds that love a story. You can survive patrons, avoid informers, flatter doorkeepers, and still lose everything to a single shout that begins on another street and reaches yours like a verdict. Ignis, fire. You feel the building tense, doors cough furniture, bucket chains assemble out of neighbours who were enemies yesterday. The vigils will come, bless them with hooks and water and fines, but first there is heat, smoke that thinks like a snake, sparks that vote with your rafters. The city that negotiated your survival all week now negotiates with flame. The warning doesn't start as a shout, it starts as a smell, pitch, waking up. Hot bread turning into something less innocent. A thread of smoke knitting itself through the alley where laundry used to be sky. Then the word climbs the stair the way fear does. 1 flight, 2 all at once. Ignis, fire. Doors cough furniture. Hands find chests first. Then sandals, then the one thing that proves you are here. An amulet, a tablet, a ring with a story. The stair becomes a river of shoulders. Your neighbour's elbow is your handrail. Your other hand keeps the lamp upright because spilled light is wasted time. Down, down. Someone's cat clamped to someone's hair like a judgment. Someone's child passed forward with the calm of people who've practiced this too often. In the street, heat arguing with wind. A brazier below has flirted with a curtain. A baker's oven has remembered it is a small volcano. A spark has travelled like gossip and found an audience. Roofs learn to be sky. The vigils arrive. Hooks, axes, buckets, leather, caps shining with honest sweat. Part firefighters, part night police, part tax collectors of your bad luck. A centurio vigilum barks. Buckets fly hand to hand, tiles come off like scales. They pull down a wall before the fire decides to. If your brazier was too close to your bed last week, expect a fine folded into sympathy. Fire is only one mood the city wears. Heat itself is a politics. Summer sits on Rome like a magistrate who doesn't love you. Air thick, breath leisurely, tempers glazed. Insulae become ovens, streets shimmer. Dogs sleep in the shadow of milestones. Men swear in dialects that melt at the edges. You learn to walk at the edges of shade, to nap like a legionary, instantly, grudgelessly, to water your day with cheap posca and gossip. You tie your tunic higher and your expectations lower. A wind called the Oster rolls in from the south, sticky as a promise. Another called Tramontana comes down from the mountains and polishes the sky so hard it squeaks. Rain is a rehearsal for flood. The Tiber, that busy brown archivist of everything upstream, forgets its banks when the moon is feeling theatrical. Quays vanish. Stairs become opinions. Warehouses learn to float badly. You watch a crate of dates argue philosophy with the door and win. The poor move uphill with their possessions like crabs and lideways, determined. The rich complain that their basements have adopted fish. The city waits on the river like a debtor waits on a cousin. It will help, it will ruin you, it will do both in the same week. Winter refuses to be picturesque. Damp squeezes the courage out of coals. Wool smells like honest work. Straw smells like past decisions. You burn what you have, cerritos of yesterday's furniture. Pine that crackles like an old man standing. Charcoal that keeps its heat a secret until you lean too close. Cold is not cold, it is wet. The cough that began as street theatre moves into your chest and starts drafting laws. The doctor prescribes steam, oil, sleep, fewer baths, more baths. Opinions are medicine, too. Then there are the marsh fevers. Rome is a city of hills and a valley that thinks like water. In the low quarters, mosquitoes hold elections nightly and always win. You don't know the word malaria, but you know its rhythm. Sweat, shiver, surrender. A day stolen and replaced with a story you did not intend to tell. You hang sprigs of rue. You pray to Febris, goddess of fever. You drink decoctions that taste like punishments and sometimes work like kindness. You learn the names of breezes because you want someone to blame. Blame. Rome is good at it and prefers it ritualized. Omens are the city's weather report in metaphor. A poultry keeper shows you sacred chickens who refuse their grain. The general postpones. A haruspex unfolds a sheep and reads the sky in its liver. The magistrate changes the day of the vote. Lightning strikes a statue, and lawyers take depositions from the air. The gods are not distant, they are municipal. Their mood steer policy the way a patron's cough steers breakfast. You don't have the leisure to be atheist. You have Laius in the hallway, two clay cousins who mind the thresholds. You keep them in breadcrumbs and gratitude. At crossroads you tie ribbons so the spirits that travel there will remember you with their softer hands. At Vesta's shrine you whisper a promise you intend to keep as long as it's convenient. The emperor has a genius you salute even if you don't feel poetic. Saluting is cheaper than being noticed not saluting. Superstition is simply ergonomics for fear. You buy an amulet against the evil eye from a woman who can spot envy half a street away. You avoid the unlucky door, the one with too many funerals. You count steps to the forum and prefer the number that matched a good day once. A friend scratches a curse tablet against a cheating partner and buries it where the gods are rumoured to eavesdrop. You scratch your head and choose a different friend. When the city cannot explain itself, it performs. Processions braid incense and politics. Litanies rinse the air. Priests in pointy hats pace like men who have memorized a map of calm. Bulls discover why altars were built with drains. You stand at the edge, a crumb of humanity in a loaf of it, and feel better because the city is feeling something with you. The relief is real, even when the miracle isn't. It's not that sacrifices change the weather, it's that they change the weather in you. Meanwhile, practicalities continue with Roman competence. After a fire, the Curator's Operum Publicorum will eventually point at your block with clipboards, or their ancient equivalent, and issue orders that may be obeyed. Augustus once made height limits. Later, emperors will remember them when headlines misbehave. A new stair goes up where the old one confessed its sins. A new landlord inherits the old one's habits. Your rent rises on the freshness of the plaster. You tell yourself you are paying for safety. You are paying for Rome's favourite illusion. Weather, gods and flame make a team that can erase a careful week in a night, which is why Romans developed the art of sleeping with shoes within reach, lamp trimmed low, and a chest packed in a logic you could perform blind. You learn to be a migratory creature inside a fixed address, a pilgrim between safety and sense. You learn that calm is a local god you can worship with buckets, prudence, and knowing the names of 3 men in the vigilies who don't hate you. Tomorrow, you think, will be kinder. Then a poster appears on the plaster outside the Thermopolium. Red letters, big promises, games, circus, chariots, beasts. Your patron's name is in the list of donors. Your attendance is not optional. Your safety is not guaranteed. 100,000 throats will learn to be one animal. Sand will learn to drink. Winners will learn to be gods. Losers will learn to be objects. You will learn why standing in a crowd can be braver than standing in a battle. Breathe. The flames are out. The damp has decided to be only inconvenient. The gods are, for the hour, in a listening mood. You set your shoes near the bed. The poster flutters in a breeze that smells of animals and brass. Dawn slides like a blade along the Circus Maximus. By mid-morning the valley is an animal, tiers of wood and stone packed with lungs, hands and wages. You squeeze through a vomitorium that truly earns a name. A vendor slaps a fig into your palm. A bookie slips odds into your ear. A pickpocket tests your belt like a locksmith with ethics. The factions shout their colours. Blues, greens, reds, whites. Thunder rolling from hill to hill. You pick a side because neutrality is an accent that offends. The chariots line up at the carceres, horses bright with brass and nerves. The starter drops the rope. 8 lives snap forward into dust. Turns carve like knives at the meter. Reins looped round a driver's waist make victory swift and failure permanent. A spill in lap 3 becomes a pile of legs and splinters. The crowd stands as one throat. You learn the Roman etiquette of catastrophe. Cheer first, then pray, then bet again. A driver limps up. Another does not. The winner makes the circuit, wreath high, faction mad with self-congratulation. You clap because your patron watches, even when he's not here. Across town, stone swallows you. The amphitheatre's ellipse, oval of appetite. Trumpets flare, sand shines, a gate yawns. Beasts enter like foreign policies. Lions, leopards, boars, bears with a philosophy of short arguments. They meet hunters dressed as myths, boys with spears steady as gossip. Net and trident men whose wrists conduct orchestras of blood. It is theatre with an exit tax. A handler misjudges, the crowd gasps, the beast learns a new route. You, compelled and repelled, understand how civilization rehearses its fears in public. Not every match is mortal, but enough are. Steel meets will, training meets terror. The editor's thumb debates mercy with the audience's hunger. A fallen fighter lifts his finger for appeal. A sponsor counts how expensive pity would be. The crowd counts how glorious denial would feel. Sometimes the spared man rises to an ovation that tastes like relief. Sometimes sand records a name nobody bothers to learn. Hazards bloom before and after the spectacle. Exits bottleneck. A stampede has opinions about your ribs. A falling amphora from a vendor's tray writes a bruise the size of a province. Faction brawls flare like brush fire. Street corners erupt into blues versus greens with fists, cobbles and loyalty as weapons. The vigils wade in with staves and experience. You discover you can move sideways faster than pride allows. After a difficult day, lungs roar from brass and dust. You emerge at dusk. Rome is noisy. Tired animals, drunk crowds, boys mimicking deaths. You are poorer or hoarser and burdened by unspeakable stories. Spectacle, though loud and powerful, is Rome's reflection. You return through the narrowed streets. You clean the Lares shrine with a quick apology for enjoying the day's dark entertainment. A freedman quietly counts money, a client practices flattery, and a slave girl carries an empty amphora with inherent grace. Up the familiar insular stairs, neighbours assist with a lamp and key. Your small room is a refuge. You put down the day's burden, a coin, a fig, an ache, a lesson. The city outside hums. You bank the brazier, set your sandals and finally breathe safe from the heat, law and spectacle of Rome. Conclusion. Why you wouldn't survive a week. Ancient Rome was a perilous system, not a pleasant visit. You had to navigate questionable water and food, unstable housing, chaotic streets, corrupt laws, ineffective medicine, powerful patrons, resentful slaves, frequent fires, uncaring weather, local gods, and unpredictable crowds. Survival demanded constant, wearying caution and negotiation. Most Romans survived because they were acclimated, trained to the filth, noise, danger, hierarchy and violence from birth. A modern person lacking this conditioning would quickly fail, tiring, offending, falling ill, or simply being overlooked. All forms of losing in Rome. So return to the present. The danger is over. You survived Rome only in a story. In reality, the city would have claimed you. Let the anxieties fade. History was dangerous. Your present is safe. Sleep. The household gods will protect you until morning.